Hello, Walbrook and Westbourne. In today's lesson, we are going to be thinking about direct speech and how we can implement that correctly into our stories as we write them up. So, many of the fables that we learned about last week have direct speech in them. But what exactly is direct speech? Direct speech is a sentence in which the exact words spoken are reproduced into speech marks. An example of this would be, look below, "You'll never guess what I've just seen," close speech marks, said Sam excitedly. Have a look at this little clip of the Lion and the Mouse story. Now there's no speech here for the mouse, but I want to see if you can think of some speech that the mouse might say in this situation.
Right at that moment, the lion woke up. And as he shook his fur, the mouse fell off. The mouse and the lion came eye to eye. All the other animals were worried.
Write down some speech that you think the mouse might say to the lion in this situation. Now remember, you need to put it into speech marks. There are a few rules for speech that we need to try and remember, so let's go through them now. If you forget, don't worry, you can just watch this part back or take a screenshot of it on your tablet or computer. So, the general rules for speech are: each new person's speech should start on a new line. Okay, so if you've got people talking and having a conversation, you shouldn't have two lots of speech marks from different people all going across one line. Each new person's speech needs to start directly on a new line. So that's our first rule. The next rule, speech is opened with speech marks. Now we already know this. Rule number 3. Each line of speech needs to start with a capital letter. Rule number 4. Each line of speech needs to end with a comma, an exclamation mark, or a question mark. A reporting clause is used at the end. So that's something like said Jane, or shouted Paul, or replied Mum. So that's called your reporting clause. It explains how it was said. Was it whispered or shouted or screamed maybe? And a full stop goes after the reporting clause. So said Jane, full stop after that. For this part of the lesson, I've given you some sentences where there's no direct speech at all. For instance, there was once a hare who bragged about how fast he could run. I wonder if you can make up some speech to show how this happened. So there's a hare and he brags about how fast he can run. What could he say in quotation marks? Something laughed the hare. See if you can write a sentence for this one that would make sense for this part of the story. I had a little go at this, and my example is, "I am the fastest runner of them all. Nobody will ever catch me," laughed the hare. So I put, "I am the fastest runner of them all, comma, nobody will ever catch me, exclamation mark." I followed all of the rules. If you can check mine for me, do I need to fix anything? I have another challenge for you now. "Spare me," begged the poor mouse. Which part of this sentence is spoken? Which part do we need to put in the speech marks? Now this is a mistake I see quite a lot, where people put speech marks around the whole thing. Now if we have speech marks around the whole thing, that must mean that the mouse had said the whole thing. So let's listen to how that would sound if the mouse said the whole thing. "Spare me," begged the poor mouse. But that's not how it sounds when we read it, is it? So we would read it as, "Spare me," begged the poor mouse. That can really help you understand which part of this sentence is going to need the quotation marks. See if you can have a little go at that now. Well done if you got this one right. "Spare me!" begged the poor mouse. Spare me is the part of the speech that the mouse was saying. Begged is explaining how it was said, and the poor mouse is the person who said it.
Now add the correct punctuation.
"Spare me!" begged the poor mouse. Once you've added in the rest of your punctuation, this is what your sentence should look like. "Spare me!" exclamation mark inside the quotation marks, begged the poor mouse, and a full stop at the end. "Please let me go, and someday I will surely repay you." Now, I have messed this sentence up very badly. I wonder if you can please try and fix it for me. It needs all the correct punctuation going in. See if you can fix that, and then when you're ready, have a check. "The lion was amused to think that a mouse could ever help him, but he was generous and finally let the mouse go." Do you think you could make up some speech for the lion to say in this part of the fable? So I came up with an idea, and mine was, "You think a tiny little mouse like you can help a powerful lion like me?" laughed the lion. But he was generous and finally let the mouse go. Have a go and see if you can come up with some speech for the lion that is different to mine. Okay, so for your independent task today, you're going to be writing up the second page of your story map, your innovated story map. Now, today we thought about speech, and you'll find in your second page of the story map there are quite a lot of bits of speech. So try and follow all the rules that we talked about today when you're writing in the speech part of your story. This part of the story map starts with "roused from his nap," so make sure that you're using the right page. Sometimes it can be a good idea to label up each page of the story map so that you don't get confused. And I've also put in a writing checklist just below to make sure that your writing has all of the other things that it needs to include, such as capital letters, full stops, commas, finger spaces, letter formation the right way, and checking your work. So make sure you're doing all of those things as well when you've finished. I'm really looking forward to reading your stories, and I will see you tomorrow. So here are those rules again for direct speech. So if you're writing up now and you're forgetting what you needed to include, I've just put them here for you to have another look at again. So remember, each character's speech starts on a new line. That's your first rule. Speech is opened with speech marks. Each line of speech starts with a capital letter. Each line of speech ends with a comma, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. A reporting clause is used at the end, so you need to include "said the lion," "said the mouse," "shouted the tiger." And a full stop goes at the end of that reporting clause. So "shouted the tiger," and then your full stop.